Greetings and welcome to this edition of
Positronic Hypersonic.
Positronic Hypersonic.
Positronic Hypersonic.
I'm Barry P. Cook, and I'm here to talk to you about the last two episodes of Season 1 of your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man that just aired yesterday. The first one was called Hero or Menace, and as it starts, we see that Norman visits Dr. Octopus in prison and taunts him about being responsible for getting him locked up, and about how he now has all of Otto's research. Meanwhile, the gang makes a big move that causes a traffic accident that almost gets Nico killed, but doesn't, thanks to Peter, who then tries to deal with the gang and ends up having to fight Scorpion and his gang, who showed up to fight the original gang, Lonnie's gang. Lonnie's gang's leader almost gets killed by Scorpion, but is saved by Peter before he flees the scene, leaving Lonnie to try to loot the truck that the gang knocked over, causing him to open a canister that releases toxic fumes. With Scorpion knocked down after accidentally electrocuting himself, Spider-Man tries to help Lonnie but gets attacked again by Scorpion when he comes to. The attack doesn't last long though, because Lonnie distracts Scorpion and fights him himself, causing him to discover that he now has some abilities he didn't have before, and he and Spider-Man fight Scorpion together. They get him down, but of course, once again, he gets up and causes a bunch of steel girders to come down on Peter and Lonnie, but Peter doesn't get hit by them because Lonnie pushes him out of the way. This pisses Peter off quite a bit, and he remembers what Mr. Osborn told him about how he should stop holding himself back. So once again he fights Scorpion, but this time with a bit more vigor, and almost kills him until Lonnie stops him. Nico and Peter reconcile, and they promise not to have secrets from each other anymore, but of course, it's clear that Nico is harboring one, which is that she likes Peter. Likes him. Peter then talks to Norman and explains how he almost killed Scorpion, and Norman tells him it only matters that he didn't. Norman then meets with all his scientists and learns that a program he had started to replicate Spider-Man is making progress. And that's where that episode ended. The second episode, the season finale, was called If This Be My Destiny, and as it starts, Peter is late for a presentation that he's supposed to make with Pearl in science class because he was helping someone retrieve their stolen car, but he makes it just in time, although with a broken diorama that he was supposed to present. Norman introduces all of his interns to a brand new lab where he reveals that all the little projects he's had them working on have been brought together to create a gateway to outer space, which he wants to use to basically ransack resources elsewhere in the cosmos. Just as they're trying to open the gateway, Doctor Strange comes through a wizard portal and tells Norman he needs to cease his experiment, which of course Norman resists and begins opening his gateway anyway, at which point the crazy creature that we saw in the first episode comes through again. Dr. Strange fights him as everyone runs off, including Norman, who expresses regret over having brought the creature here, and in the fight, the gateway gets shut down, at which point Spider-Man joins the fight and gets tossed through a wall into the container that was holding the spider that Osborn was trying to use to replicate Spider-Man. Following this, Spider-Man and Doctor Strange work together to try to send the creature back to its own part of space. As the fight continues, we see that Doctor Strange and the creature end up at the school, just as we saw them in the first episode, having apparently traveled through time as a result of Doctor Strange's effort to fight him in the lab, bringing about the very events that created Spider-Man in the first place. We then see that when Doctor Strange exited the school area with the creature, he was bringing him back to the lab where the fight continues in the present, which we didn't know when he originally leaves the scene of the school in the first episode. Once they send the creature through back to his own part of space, Doctor Strange has to hold him in place there while Spider-Man pulls down the whole portal so that it would be inoperable, blocking the creature from returning. They succeed, but one little globule piece of the alien makes it back through right before they break the gateway. Later, Peter questions whether he can still work with Norman, and Harry's inspired to create his own company to allow young scientists the same opportunity as they found in the internship program without Norman being involved. Peter and Doctor Strange talk, and Peter tells Strange that he knows that Strange's incursion back in time is what made him Spider-Man. As Strange departs through a wizard portal with Peter watching, we see the Watcher overlooking the scene. Back at the lab, Norman discovers the piece of the alien that was left behind. Harry creates his company and calls it the Worldwide Engineering Brigade, or WEB for short, and invites all the other interns to join. Somewhere in the city, Daredevil meets with one of the interns who apparently has been working for him to get info on Oscorp and is also the hero Finesse from the comics, wherein she is the daughter of the villain Taskmaster. Lonnie reunites with some of the members of the gang and seems to go about the business of starting a new project with them. Nico, meanwhile, uses her amulet in some kind of ritual which allows her to communicate with her mother, who is either dead or in some other realm. In his prison cell, Doc Ock draws up some rudimentary plans for his wild octopus arms. Speaking of prison, Aunt May visits a man in prison, and it turns out to be Peter's dad. As the episode ends, Peter goes swinging through the city with a new confidence since being told by Doctor Strange that he thinks Peter is ready for whatever comes. And that's where that episode and the season ended. And once again, I liked these episodes. I have liked this whole season. I think it's just been excellent from start to finish. And, these episodes were no exception. I think it's incredible how they brought everything full circle and showed that, they have kind of like a paradox, right? Where Norman created Spider-Man to begin with because a spider that he was infusing with Peter's already spider-enhanced blood went back in time to infect Peter to begin with, right? Let's wrap our heads around that. It's like, what came first, the watch or the watchmaker? So I thought that was a really cool thing that they did. And of course, this is setting up Venom, right, with the globule that got left behind. So that's setting up Venom, which is interesting because the first thing I thought when I saw the creature in the first episode was that it was Venom, but it wasn't. I guess it's just another member of his species, and then we're going to get Venom with the globule. I thought that was super cool. The animation continues to wow the crap out of me. It's just amazing. I think the character models are excellent. I like how sometimes it actually feels 3D, the way they do the animation, and it just couldn't be cooler. I continue to love the voice acting. I continue to love the writing. I was surprised that when Lonnie got hit with the gas, he didn't immediately turn all Tombstone, and that he's still kind of on that path, and that so far he's still at least somewhat decent, and he hasn't turned full villain. So it's kind of weird that they're doing it that way, but I'm interested to see where it goes. I'm enjoying the whole relationship between Nico and Peter. I hate that they're not together because I think she loves him and I think he, really, really likes her and could love her, but they're not going to be a couple, at least not right away. And it's driving me insane. But at the same time, I like it because, I identify with it as someone who has pined for people in his life and couldn't tell them how he felt. Back in the days when I was not an old fart and actually had hair under this hat. I'm liking that they continue to show Norman to be sort of straddling the fence between good and evil. Like, in other words, he's a good guy. He's got good intentions for humanity, I think, and his fellow man. But at the same time, he's like also in it for himself, I think. He's very ambitious and he's a little bit cutthroat at the same time. And that, of course, makes sense given that he's going to be the Green Goblin. So that whole thing is interesting. I loved seeing Daredevil again, and I'm interested by this whole plot of him having had Finesse as like a plant at Oscorp. I want to see where that's going to go. What are he and Finesse going to do next season? I'm wondering what they're going to do with the whole Peter's dad is still alive thing. Does Peter know? Does he not know? Does he think his dad is dead, or does he know he's in jail? We have to figure that out. And I'm absolutely chuffed, as the Brits would say, at the fact that at the end, Peter is swinging through the city, doing his thing, being Spider-Man, looking out to help the people of his city, and doing so with a renewed confidence that, hey, he's got this, which, up to this point, he really hasn't had. He's been, kind of cocky and a little confident at times, but now he's sort of overcome some of the doubts he did have, it seems, and I think that's really cool. So I'm just super pleased with this season. I really, really enjoyed it, and I cannot wait for season 2. I'm really looking forward to it. But that's it. I'm going to get out of here for now. I'll be back with another video soon. Until I return, I wish you peace and long life.